Happy Friday. Welcome to Laurie and Billie Jean. Let's eat. We are going through each of the recipes in my grandmother's cookbook, one a week, and cooking them. You can find any links to the recipes below in the description if you want to try to make anything for yourself. Today we're going to be making homemade angel biscuits. So these are really delicious biscuits that my grandmother used to make Southern style. I super recommend them. I've actually made this recipe quite a few times and it's pretty easy. Mostly you're just taking some flour, some yeast, things like that, mixing them together. You do need to make the dough the day before you cook the biscuits. So I usually do it at night and then the next day we'll have it for lunch or for dinner. So even if you don't bake very much, I highly recommend this as a place to get started. Try it out. Make some biscuits. You could make them to go along with the cube steak and gravy I made last week. I think that would be pretty delicious. So let's get started. So you need a couple of things to get started on this one. First and foremost, you need a package of slow rise yeast. I always use Fleischmann's. So these come in like packs of 3 and I just hang on to them. I usually have one sitting around the house. You also need some self-rising flour. I almost always buy the white lily flour, but they didn't have it when I went to the store. So as long as it's self-rising, it should be fine. It should work just the same. You need a little bit of sugar, as well as some soda is what my grandmother calls it, but I actually have come to find out that soda alone means baking powder, not baking soda. I'll actually add a teaspoon of baking soda and baking powder. I've made this a couple of times and I think it works a little better that way. So that's what I actually recommend and I'll pull that out as well. You need some Crisco, which I still have hanging on from when we made the cake recently. And then you also need some buttermilk, which is in my fridge. So that's it, pretty simple. Let's get started. So the first thing you're gonna do is put your yeast in and then you're gonna need to put a little bit of water on the yeast to activate it. The water needs to be around 115 degrees. So I kind of just feel that out. It should be a little warm, but definitely not scalding or anything. So we're gonna go ahead and add the water and then we're gonna start sifting the flour in. So another tip I can actually give for this recipe, since I've made it a couple of times, is I always add in a little salt too, just to keep things with a nice flavor. And then we're gonna start mixing this together and see if we can get a nice dough consistency. And here's our nice looking dough, which we're going to let rise for the day. I do highly recommend when you're mixing it, I always start with a spoon just to get everything going, but then I mix everything with my hands. You're gonna have to get your hands dirty if you wanna make biscuits. This comes as no surprise. So I think it looks pretty good. It's a little sticky, so if we need to, we might add a little flour tomorrow, but that'll help us when we're rolling the dough out so we can make sure that it doesn't stick too bad by adding some extra flour. So I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see how it looks tomorrow. So I've gone ahead and preheated the oven to 350 degrees so our biscuits can get to cooking. We can see what we've got here. We've gotten a nice rise in the biscuits, some nice sticky dough. So what we're gonna do first is flour our workspace and our hands so that we can roll out the dough. I don't actually have a roller, so I'm gonna have to get creative in how I do this. Stay tuned, should be interesting. So here's what we've got. It worked perfectly fine without the rolling pin, and I just used a plastic wine cup to cut these out, and I think that's a pretty good size. So I think they're all looking pretty good. This is 12 biscuits right here, and there's still at least half the dough left. So we're gonna have a lot of biscuits. You can cut this in half. I've done it that way before with the same amount of yeast. It worked totally fine. So we just heard that the 350 is good to go. I'm gonna put these in for about 12 minutes. Check them in about 10 minutes in to see if they're turning golden like we want, and then we'll see where we're at biscuit-wise. And here is our beautiful angel biscuit. I went ahead and cut into it and put some butter on it, but you can also do ham. It's a really nice little ham biscuit if you want that. Made about a little over 24. So a lot of biscuits here if that's what you want. All right, let's dig in. So spoiler alert, I went ahead and had one of these this morning and it was pretty good. A nice breakfast with some eggs and bacon. Nice and soft, good texture. It hasn't risen quite as much as I was hoping. I've had that trouble the last couple times, but hey, it doesn't really bother me. Have fun eating your biscuits. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.